Hello students, I am Geeta Chug. Welcome to my channel Learn English with Geeta ma'am. So today we are going to read chapter 2 from 10th class book First Flight. The title of this chapter is Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. Actually, this Long Walk to Freedom is an autobiography. Autobiography means where the persons write about his life and incidents himself. Fine. जब कोई अपनी life की story खुद लिखता है, then that is called autobiography. Fine. Here you can see the name of the writer. The same means this is an autobiography. It is written by Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Fine. So before reading the chapter, we need to know certain important points. Apartheid. It is a political system that separates people according to their race. So this is the long walk to freedom talks about. Actually, Nelson Mandela fought throughout his life for many years to get freedom from this apartheid policy, where the people were separated to each other on the basis of their skin color. Means blacks were always ruled over by the whites. And Nelson Mandela stood against this policy along with other comrades. Fine. So here it is asked where we need to name the countries which had such a political system until very recently. So we can say that it is South Africa. Fine. Now we are asked, have you heard of Nelson Mandela? Mandela, his African National Congress, spent a lifetime fighting against apartheid. Mandela had to spend 30 years in prison. Finally, democratic elections were held in South Africa in 1994. This is a very important date. And Mandela became the first black president of a new nation. So यहाँ पे it is told that Nelson Mandela and his African National Congress, fine, fought against apartheid. And Mandela, for that he had to spend 30 years in prison. And finally, in 1994, democratic elections were held. Fine. And then Mandela was elected as he became the first black president of a new nation. He was the first black president of South Africa. Fine. And when did the election take place? In the year 1994. These things are very important to know the chapter more deeply. Fine. Further, we can see that in this extract from his autobiography, means this chapter is actually an extract, some part. Extract means a part of his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom. Mandela speaks about a historic occasion, the inauguration ceremony. Can you guess what the occasion might be? So now we are going to know about the inauguration ceremony. The inauguration, or we can say it was the installation of Democratic Republic. So the news item here in this box, you are going to see the news item from the BBC on the date 10th May 1994, which was the day of inauguration, or we can say the installation of democratic government. Fine. So we are not going to read this news item. We read further and we'll come to know here some activities given which we will be able to know only after reading the lesson. Fine. So let's begin with the lesson, which is really motivating all. Fine. So it says 10th May, dawned bright and clear. 10th May 1994. As we have read, it is the inauguration ceremony. Fine. The day was, dawn means the day break. ठीक है कि दिन उस दिन निकला था, वो कैसा था? It was bright and clear. It is actually significant to the occasion. ठीक है. यहाँ पे जो डे को ब्राइट एंड क्लियर बताया है, इट इज टोल्ड इन रिलेशन टू द मीन्स एवरीथिंग वॉज एट काम नाउ, देयर वॉज नो फाइट. ठीक है, देयर वॉज नथिंग which can be said negative. Okay, this apartheid had been eradicated, rooted up from there. So, similarly, the sky looked bright and clear. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. Now, he talks about the day. He says that past few days means before the day of the ceremony, he had been pleasantly besieged. Besieged means to be surrounded closely by. Fine. So he was surrounded closely by dignitaries, means the leaders, the big personalities, the world leaders. It is given here. Fine. Who were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration. Means 10th May, जिस दिन वहाँ पे डेमोक्रेटिक गवर्नमेंट का इंस्टॉलेशन होना था, उससे पहले ही, just because Nelson Mandela play a great role in this. Fine. So many leaders were coming to pay their respects before the inauguration ceremony. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. So it was going to be the largest gathering. इससे पहले कभी भी जो डिफरेंट इंटरनेशनल लीडर्स हैं वो साउथ अफ्रीकन सॉइल पे इससे पहले कभी भी इतने नंबर में नहीं गैदर हुए थे. फाइन. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater formed by the Union buildings in Pretoria. Now it is told that the ceremonies related to the installation of democratic government took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheater. Now what an amphitheater is? It is told here, it is a building without a roof, having many rows of seats. Okay? In the way you can see seats which rise in steps, similar to the, you can say, as the cricket stadium or any other sports we can talk about. Fine. So it was an amphitheater, a sandstone amphitheater made by the Union buildings in Pretoria. For decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy. Fine. This had been the seat of means it had been ruled by the white supremacy for decades, मतलब कई सालों तक. And now it was the site of a rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Now it is told that earlier it was the seat of means it was occupied only by the whites. But on that day it was a rainbow site. Why rainbow site? But because the people gathered there were of different colors and from different nations, and they all were gathered there for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Now you are often asked what was being celebrated on 10th May 1994. Fine. So you get your answer here. It was the day of installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Fine. One more question is asked that how can you say that 10th May is an autumn day? This is a very important question I am going to tell you. It is asked that how can you say that it was an autumn day? So as we know, autumn, what does happen in the autumn season? क्या होता है कि leaves जो हैं they just shed from the trees, the old leaves, and it is in a way it is a welcome to the new leaves. Fine. So autumn day, 10th May is called an autumn day in South Africa as the old white supremacy was uprooted. Fine. And it was the installation of the new democratic government. Fine. Made for people, made by the people and of people. Fine. We have read about the democracy. So it is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. So that's why it was the day when the old government system was uprooted. That's in the similar way it is called the autumn day. Fine. Keep this in your mind. The next point. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. This is the name of Nelson Mandela's daughter. On the podium, Mr. de Klerk was first sworn in as second deputy president. Second deputy president means the second vice president. Who sworn in? किन्होंने शपथ ली वहाँ पे as the second deputy president? He was Mr. de Klerk. Then thereafter what happened? Then Thabo Mbeki. It is pronounced as Mbeki. Fine. Listen to it carefully. Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. Fine. First deputy president was Thabo Mbeki. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. Now he says that when it was his turn, fine, he pledged what? To obey and uphold the constitution. Fine, to maintain the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said, today all of us do by our presence here confer glory and hope to the newborn liberty. So he says that while speaking at the podium, he spoke about the nation and his how much he regards the nation. Fine. So he says, today, all of us, by our presence here, confer glory and hope. Confer means to give. So we are here to give glory and hope to the newborn liberty, where there was no discrimination on the basis of colors. So, out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all the humanity will be proud. Here he says, experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted long, too long. Actually, this all discrimination, this apartheid system, begin in the year of 1900. Means you can say that it was the first decade. Okay, fine. It was the first decade of the 20th century when this all started, and till the end of the 20th century, means the last decade, South Africa could get freedom for this apartheid system. So he says that this disaster lasted too long. They suffered all this for decades, and now it must be like birth of a society which all humanity will be proud, because there will be no such discrimination anymore. So the society, the humanity will be proud of it. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be the host to the nations of the world on our own soil. Now, we who were outlaws, just look at the meaning. Why he says that we were outlaws? Because of its policy of apartheid, many countries had earlier broken off diplomatic relations with South Africa. Fine. Because of this apartheid policy, because there was a discrimination between blacks and whites. Fine. So the countries had broken off their connections, their relations with South Africa. Fine. So he says that now we are having the privilege, the rare privilege, to be the host to the nations of the world. Now they have come up on our own soil. We have got this privilege. I know. So he says, we thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. Now he says that He was thankful that all the international guests came there to take possession, means to just have, means to feel the pleasure of having justice, peace, and human dignity, because it was like a common victory for all. Fine. Now it says we have at last achieved our political emancipation. Emancipation is freedom for restriction. So he says that at last, now we have achieved our political freedom. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty. He says that now on this day we pledge. What for? To liberate all our people from continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender and other discrimination. तो वो यहाँ पे ये प्रॉमिस कर रहे हैं, प्लेज कर रहे हैं दैट ही इज गोइंग टू, और द पीपल विद हिम, ठीक है, दे ऑल आर गोइंग टू लिबरेट द पीपल ऑफ द नेशन फ्रॉम द बॉन्डेज ऑफ पॉवर्टी, deprivation. Deprivation means when you are not having your own rights, okay, you are just not having benefits of the rights provided to a citizen of a particular nation. So he says that we are going to get free all our people, we are going to get all our people free from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender and other discrimination. किसी भी तरह का जो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो रहा है हमारे नेशन के लोगों के साथ में, वी आर गोइंग टू प्लेज टू मेक देम free of all this discrimination. Never, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by other. ठीक है, now he says that आगे से कभी भी ऐसा नहीं होगा, and he is just taking a pledge towards it that this beautiful land of South Africa is not going to experience it again. What experience? The oppression of one by other, where one rules the other person. ऐसा यहाँ पे हम दोबारा नहीं होने देंगे. This is what Nelson Mandela says. Then he says the sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. He says that as the day was bright and clear, so he is saying that it was a very glorious human achievement, and similarly he says that sun shall never set on sun का निकलना, so glorious, है ना. So he says that nature is also equally happy as the people of South Africa are. Let freedom reign, God bless Africa. Freedom reign, reign means होता है rule. तो यहाँ पे वो कह रहे हैं कि ये जो फ्रीडम है सबकी, यही रूल करे, इस फ्रीडम के ऊपर कोई रूल ना करे, ठीक है. एंड he wishes God that God bless Africa. Further, there are some oral comprehension check questions which we will discuss later on. See, I told you one question from here. Can you say how 10 May is an autumn day? This is an important one. I have already told you. Next, certain more important questions we are going to read along with the chapter. Just be there with me till the end of the video. Fine. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters and troop carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. Now he says that they all got to see something spectacular. Spectacular means impressive. Fine. An array is actually a sequence of something where one follows the other. Fine. So he says there was an impressive display of South African jets, helicopters and troop carriers. The troop carriers can be aircrafts, fine, which carried the troop group of soldiers. They rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings in Pretoria, you remember. So he says that it was a beautiful performance where one after the other they were making an impressive display. It was colorful and attractive. Fine. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of the military's loyalty to democracy, to a new government that had been fairly and freely elected. Fine. Very beautiful lines. Here says that this display was not only a pinpoint. Pinpoint means very precise. है ना, एकदम बारीकी से जो उन्होंने ये डिस्प्ले किया था, मीन्स द लिप्स, है ना, एवरीथिंग वाज सो फाइन, everything was means flawless. So he says that it was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but it was a demonstration of, it was a display of military's loyalty towards the nation, towards the new government that had been freely and fairly elected. Fine. Freely and fairly, it has alliteration with it. Let's talk further. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. Now, bedecked means hota hai decorated. Okay, bedecked means decorated. Now he says that South African Defence Force and Police Force, the generals from there, the highest generals, whose chests, ठीक है, they were decorated with ribbons and medals. ठीक है, आपने देखा है ना कि जो ये जनरल्स होते हैं, इनके शोल्डर्स पे, चेस्ट पे इनकी अचीवमेंट्स को शो करने वाले बैजेस होते हैं, मेडल्स होते हैं, है ना. सो इन दिस वे ही सेज दैट दोज पर्सन्स, दे saluted him and pledged their loyalty towards the nation. Fine. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. Okay, now he says not unmindful of. That means he was unmindful of means aware of. So he was aware of the fact that so many years before, okay, the same people, they would not have saluted him but arrested him. So his fight for the freedom has provided him that reputation, that he is being saluted by the highest generals of South Africa. Next, finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue and gold of the new South African flag. Now he says, finally, a chevron of, chevron one, what? A pattern of V. A shape of V is made. Impala jets. By the Impala jets, they left a smoke trail. Fine. And this smoke was colored. How? It was colored having black, red, green, blue and gold color of the South African flag. Have you seen the South African flag? It is somehow like this.